So that,
Right, well, we have that.
yeah, so you don't have to worry.
When my life requires carrying out so much stuff, but it does.
Oh, yes, I know.
Yeah. Let's hold it down.
Yes, I'm gonna definitely wait 5 minutes because people are
Yeah, we
walking
can
over.
scoot down.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
I don't want you.
no, I'm excited.
What? Still.
No,
Oh, great, nice to meet you.
yeah, just find one of the speakers. Were you getting those? And I just, okay. This is one of those new classes where it's like halfway under the ground.
Yeah. Goes.
Here's what I'm imagining. I'm imagining people like.
Oh, I haven't turned down the mics yet.
Frisbee or with
Yeah, they don't know what's going on.
Oh, totally. That's when you put down the blinds.
Right? I once was presenting on the intricacies of certain aspects of the Code of Federal Regulations with respect to wetlands in an 8-hour presentation in a hotel room with a view of the ocean, and there were dolphins.
Oh. That's pretty
It
awesome.
was really, didn't work out well for me being on top of it.
Yeah.
Like this is because I went to undergrad here. And
Oh, really? No.
This building's new. Most classrooms don't have that kind of view, let's just say. Yeah, not all that distracted.
I still vividly remember my clinic partner being outside, my clinic partner's wife being outside with their dog during our last exam in law school, and he finished earlier than I did, and I looked out, and he was out there having fun, and I was still finishing question 3. I'm sure we got the same grade, it just took me longer to finish question 3.
As long as if all they're doing is playing frisbee, then you're pretty safe. There's a lot of worse things they can do out there.
The real question is, what is question 3?
I know, right? At this point, I don't remember what question 3 was, but I remember it was the last question and 3 questions in. And there was a complicated hypothetical, and I required multiple colors of markers to make sure that we were highlighting the right sections and the right thing. I was very organized. I have no idea if I tolerated myself in law school.
These aren't
I
on.
don't know if we need it.
I don't know. It's a small group, so.
They're not on.
No, but.
I haven't unmuted them yet. Once you start,
Oh,
I'll.
okay, so you do that? Okay.
So is this being recorded?
Yes, audio and video.
So what's the will of the people? 5 minutes into our time.
Get started.
All right, we'll switch to the, I just had this up because I was a little bit rebellious and did not use, I'm going to tell you about this, I did not use the RISE framework because I knew that people would be bringing their PowerPoints together, and so I didn't want to do that. So there's a RISE slide, and now we're going to leave the RISE slide forever behind us.
It's gonna be hard for us.
And to honor,
Clicker's here, so we
The
can
fact
just pass
that
it
there's-
down.
Okay.
yeah, I'll do that in a minute. To honor that, I do have all the RISE supporters right there, and many of them, though not all the slides in that bottom corner down there. So anyways, So we are very appreciative that you've come today. I'm going to stand for a little bit, and then I will sit. And now I don't have the thing, so I will.
Oh, it's
go
right
over
there.
Here, we have
Yeah.
it.
Oh, look. So I want to tell you a little about our time together. We are going to each give a presentation for a few minutes about why we got to be in this room, what connection we have to the legal framework for university interventions, exploring policy and regulatory frameworks for university resilience work. And so then we will each go through and do that, and then we will explore a set of questions at the end, and we'll kind of ask and go down, talking about barriers, talking about ways to achieve justice and sustainability, and ways to overcome, and then we'll turn it over to you. This is a small enough group that we may decide after one round that we want to turn it into a discussion. We'll just feel our way through this. Is that cool with you all?
Cool.
Awesome. All right. I actually am not going to tell you, there's great bios because we've got amazing people. This really is on. There's great bios because we've got amazing people here. But what I'd like for us each to do is introduce ourselves as we start our particular part of the panel. And so I'm not going to spend a lot of time other than saying that we've got an amazing compilation of people, all of whom come at this in a very different way. But that is the nature of RISE. That is the nature of why I keep coming back to work with RISE. Because RISE believes in convergence. The people behind RISE, and technically I have been named as one of them because I came in a while ago, my first trip to the island in 2018 when I had my first meeting with Cecilia. Believe that if you bring people together who are doing important work that's somewhat connected in some way, there will be convergence. There will be greater ideas. There will be a knowledge that comes out and a way of moving forward that converges, that resonates, that becomes a greater whole. And so I was very excited when I saw the panel coming together because I think that this conversation will surprise us in the way that it brings out some of the things that is at the essence of why we all are here together in Albany. Our first speaker is going to be, oh, that's backwards. There we go. So Joe will be our first speaker who's from EPA, and I'm going to turn it over to him so he can advance his slides. Everyone has about 5 or 6 slides at most.
Okay, well, thank you, Kim. It's great to see everyone. Thanks for being here today. So I'm going to just jump right in because we only have a couple of minutes for this initial thing. EPA was on the scene for the response and the recovery after Hurricanes Maria and Irma, both in Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. And of course, we were also very active and on the scene in the response and recovery to Hurricane Sandy, which I'll also be mentioning. Okay, good. This is the island of Culebra off of Puerto Rico. It is a small island. The main power cable to Culebra was damaged during Hurricane Maria. The residents were without power for 3 months. And it was estimated that it would take up to 5 years to repair that cable. So EPA collaborated with the University of Puerto Rico, Mayaguez, and other stakeholders on a study for a hybrid microgrid that would include solar, battery storage, and diesel generation. And the purpose was to support critical infrastructure on Culebra. And this is the collaborative group at the mayor's office in Culebra. Students from University of Puerto Rico and Mayaguez collected field data from a dozen sites in Culebra. On the upper right, you can see a landfill. That was one of the potential sites. On the lower left is a number of the different sites and the critical infrastructure in yellow, and then some of the sites where they collected data. The data they collected, the students, was for the purpose of measuring the suitability for solar. There were 240 rural drinking water systems in Puerto Rico not served by PRASA, the main Puerto Rico Aqueduct and Sewer Authority. These communities were geographically isolated. They tend to be low income, and they don't have the resources to keep functioning, keep their systems functioning well. 89% of them, of these 240 rural drinking water systems, did not comply with regulatory standards before Maria. And afterwards, they lost power, they were damaged. These are the kind of systems, these small systems, that are very vulnerable to weather shock. And so EPA, among others, formed what's called the Water Coalition. It included 3 federal agencies, 9 NGOs, and 3 universities, Polytechnic University of Puerto Rico, Inter-American University of Puerto Rico, and University of Puerto Rico. Then Polytechnic also signed an MOU with the EPA, and these are some of the partners in the background. I'll just quickly mention one more thing. I wanted to say something about Sandy. So after Hurricane Sandy, EPA and other partners formed a Long Island Smart Growth Resiliency Partnership, which included EPA, FEMA, New York State Department of State, New York State DEC, the counties of Nassau and Suffolk on Long Island. And then we added to that the Nature Conservancy, Stony Brook University, Touro Law School, and later the Pace Land Use Law Center. And I'll talk about that in more detail later, but one of the products that came out of this partnership, you can see on the left, is the CRISE Local Land Use Assessment Tool, which is to help communities assess through legal analysis, looking at their building codes and ordinances, the resiliency of the community and make recommendations for improving that. So I think that's where I will stop. Who's next? Okay.
Hi everyone, is this on?
There it is. It's up.
Yes. Okay, great. Hi everyone, my name is Alyssa Curran. I am currently a board member for a nonprofit organization called Unidos por Tualo. It was formed just after Hurricane Maria hit by someone who had family ties to Tualo and saw a desperate need for water filtration and for other resources to get to the center of the island. I'm here because my former professor at Harvard Law School, Wendy Jacobs, was not able to be here, and so she reached out to me to see if I wanted to come and speak about a project that I worked on while I was in school. I did my master's in urban planning at the Graduate School of Design at Harvard and was a part of this multidisciplinary course called the Climate Solutions Living Lab. And this came out of the Office of Sustainability for Harvard. Which is kind of an interesting tie into the idea of policy and frameworks and how that comes through in an academic sense. So as we were preparing for the launch of the course in January of 2018, I was sitting with Wendy and we were talking about what types of projects we would be looking into for the course. That was to be from January to May of 2018, and this was right around late September, early October, and so it became very apparent that some of our resources and our energy should go toward problem solving around the grid in Puerto Rico right after Irma and Maria hit. So our team had someone from the business school, someone from the law school, someone from the engineering school, someone from the school of government, and I was coming from the planning side, so we had a very comprehensive and multidisciplinary approach to this project. So I'm here as a board member for Unidos por Tualo, which is linked to a newly formed cooperative on the island, Cooperativa Hidroeléctrica de la Montaña, and this is a direct result of the work that we put together for the course. So, as everyone is familiar, this is the worst blackout in U.S. history. Our project was really focused on coming up with some solutions that address primarily the social injustices around resilience and around post-disaster recovery. We had recognized a lot of the issues that were happening on the island for various reasons, including some trade issues and other laws that are around where resources were coming from and how they were getting to the island, and then how they were distributed after that. So one of the problems was that a lot of even poles, for example, or different cables and wires for rebuilding the grid were not getting to the center of the island. As a result, there was a huge discrepancy in terms of the timing that happened, where certain areas of the island, like San Juan, were receiving power much sooner than some of the rural and mountainous communities in the center of the island. So this was a major problem that we were trying to address going into it. The objective of the course was come up with a practical solution. I think one of the benefits of this course was that it was parsed out into a number of different phases, including a big brainstorming discovery phase, as well as a feasibility study and then an implementation part. So in January of 2018, I went as research assistant to just listen and observe, hear what was kind of going on the island, and build these relationships with this nonprofit organization. So we went through, and solar seemed to be a really interesting concept that was already being deployed. It was by the EPA, as Joe was just talking about, as well as a number of different entities going and looking at solar and solar plus storage, so that's with the batteries. So it looked like that could be a really good opportunity for this project, but then we also discovered that there were some legacy hydropower units there. They had been damaged from a hurricane that happened in 1998, and there was just no investment in rehabbing these units that could produce more than enough power for 3 municipalities in the center of the island, Duado, Aruntas, and Ayuya. And there was a potential we saw for there to be 35 megawatts of power, which then translates into a huge cost benefit in terms of a per kilowatt hour basis when compared to solar plus storage. So through our feasibility study, we really started to focus on this idea of rehabbing the hydro units to have this pump storage system. So this is just a basic diagram. The concept of the project is take advantage of this opportunity where the government was talking about privatizing the system. The Power Authority is $9 billion in bankruptcy and is looking to sell off its assets or think about other strategic ways of delivering power, including through public-private partnerships. So there's an opportunity, and as it was happening, there was new regulations coming out where it allowed for electric cooperatives to participate in this kind of system. When we looked at the demographics and the economic development opportunities that could exist from such a new system, and a cooperative really made a lot of sense in terms of bringing in as many people as possible to benefit from the system. And then, of course, harness renewable energy is important for an island that previously has imported 98% of its fuel for its power. So we worked hand in hand with a nonprofit organization as we were going through this project, and they really latched on to the idea. They loved the concept. They started going after it. So since then, some of the main points are that they took our implementation plan that we finished up in May of 2018. They ran with it. They've been using some of the work that we've done there for grant applications, received their first $200,000 grant at the end of summer, early fall in 2018, have been using that to hire some coordinators, some project staff. So there's 5 women that are now as a part of this, which is also awesome to see a lot of female participation in this project. And they officially launched the cooperative. They incorporated it as the first electric cooperative on the island of Puerto Rico in fall, in September. So really exciting and happy to talk more about that. And then I just wanted to leave us with this idea of the connection between local efforts and what we're all doing here, in New York State, and how we're interested in this, and just kind of reflecting on the notion of what can we do to help, what can we do to advance some of these really critical efforts that are going on that really benefit from intentional collaboration. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody, and again, thanks for showing up after lunch. My name is Susan Clark, and I'm the director of a new initiative at UB called Sustainable Urban Environments Initiative in the College of Arts and Sciences. And so that's just one of 7 different schools or units throughout the University of Buffalo. So my job really is to coordinate and inform sustainability efforts across the 29 or 30 departments within the college, which is a huge challenge, but there's a lot of work to do and a lot of opportunity that I see there. So I want to tell you a little bit about the initiative, and then I would also like to tell you about a specific research project that I has just started that will bring me to Puerto Rico actually in just a few weeks from now. So the Sustainability Initiative, we very much use the Sustainable Development Goals developed by the United Nations as a framework to kind of organize our thoughts and goals of the initiative. And so you can see the 17 goals behind me here. It's just a lot of different goals. But this framework has been super useful when you're working with faculty and students that work in very different departments, right? In the College of Arts and Sciences, I'm working with faculty from the natural sciences, from the social sciences, from the arts and the humanities. And so often it's difficult for students or faculty that may not think what they're doing or what they're interested in relates to sustainability. They can often point to one of these key challenges and how their work relates to one of these or more. And so this framework has been really useful in starting collaborative, hopefully I'm working towards these more convergent conversations across the college as the initiative has been, developing and really been being built from the ground up over the last few months. So the initiative has, so far, again, it's been less than a year that this initiative has been developed and that I've been leading it. I focused on 3 specific things, so sustainability education, research, and also outreach. The education part obviously is really important. We have a brand new department, Environment and Sustainability, that's forming now at UB, which is really exciting, that there's a great opportunity to also embed some resilience education in there as well. But also, I think the bigger challenge is trying to think about how to embed sustainability and resilience education throughout the entire college. It's my feeling, I believe that all the students that graduate should have some fundamental understanding of what resilience and sustainability means and what they can do in their own lives to kind of pursue those goals. And figuring out how to create modules and things that faculty can just take and use in their classes rather than trying to come up with something new on their own. So I'm doing a lot of that in addition to developing curriculum or at the formal level graduate programs and things in sustainability that are becoming available. Research, in the Sustainability Initiative, we do everything from research related to water, energy, waste. I'll give you a quick example of that in a second related to Puerto Rico. And then outreach, we have a lot of public events where we try to bring the public, but also people on campus together to learn about climate change and other really important issues. So this is the project I wanted to refer you to, and this is kind of the other hat that I wear. I have a funded project by Department of Energy through Sandia National Labs. You can see the team of researchers there, a very interdisciplinary team. But the point here is to develop a new metric that will measure the burdens, the social burden that communities experience during power outages. Now, San Juan, Puerto Rico is one of the case studies we're looking at, also San Antonio, Texas, and also a rural community here in Old Forge, upstate New York. But my student and I are headed to Puerto Rico in just a couple weeks in early December to start interviewing some community leaders about their experiences during the power outages and how the power outage affect their basic needs and their ability to fulfill those needs. And so I think from this panel, I really bring this perspective of more the academic, someone as a director of this new initiative that I'm trying to build, but also as someone who's about to embark on this on-the-ground project in Puerto Rico in just a few weeks. I think I had one more slide here, but I won't go into all the depth here since I'm sure over time. Last but not least.
That's me first.
Oh, you're first.
I'm actually going to do a really quick
Okay.
Okay, don't worry.
not just moderating.
Okay.
Because, so I just, do you want me to speak into the mic? I don't know if it's easier. So I just wanted to say why I'm here. This is kind of, I'm going to let them talk mostly, but I want to say why I'm here. And it's because I woke up in the middle of the night on September 20th and had been watching Maria come, had watched Irma devastate, and now one of my best friends from high school who was living in the Virgin Islands has had to move home because lost of things. So it was a very tenuous time, and I woke up and I said, you know what? This reminds me of Katrina hitting. And Katrina was back when Netflix mailed you DVDs, and so there was no way to keep entertained right after you had a baby. I had a baby on August 25th. And so what do when you have a baby? You sit still in a chair and you hold the baby, and so you watch TV because it was before anything streamed. And so I watched a lot of coverage of Katrina, and then I was reading a lot of what my friends who did clinical programs at other schools could do. And after a few months, after the initial response, there was a lot of legal needs. And so my friends who were in the legal clinics could get van loads of students to go and provide immediate assistance, supporting the local lawyers in processing the huge amounts of legal claims that were needed. And I thought to myself, I don't know how that's going to happen in Puerto Rico, because you can't just take a van to Puerto Rico. So there's some great schools there. One of my colleagues was a graduate from there, Luis Chiesa. I knew that they could do some good things, but I was wondering how to get other things, and I had this crazy idea, can we do a clinic? So, long story short, this is a long story. We sent out letters, people sent us some money, because I also didn't want to only take students who could afford to go. My big thing is the students who need the experience, who want to be public interest lawyers, don't just happen to have a few $1,000s to go travel to Puerto Rico to do work. And I wanted to make sure that everyone who could, who wanted to go, could go. So they had to apply, and I ended up taking for the first trip 10 people, and that's the first line, and that's a picture of us at the law school. We worked with we had to figure out how to provide helpful help, and I've gotten better at providing helpful help. But I tried even from the beginning to talk with local people about how we could come in and provide help and not be in the way. I know so many people come in to volunteer and they're in the way. So, and then we've gone back a number of times. The second trip, we went back and we took our dean, and so we connected with the Chief Justice. And then we've done some local work. So this is a group of students doing local work in Buffalo as well with the Hispanic community there. It's a 6-credit class that I teach. It's a really intense class. I believe, as far as I know, it's the most intense Puerto Rico-based class where they do a lot of work. And they start with classes at home, and then we go, and then they come back and they do work after and do papers after. We did a lot of work. The first trip we did a lot more humanitarian work than we expected to do. We've done less of that. We've been able to shift to more of the legal work because we had to figure out where we would be adding bandwidth rather than taking work away. Because it turns out that pro bono in New York is what people will do for free in New York is what lawyers in Puerto Rico will do, because making $300 makes a huge difference to their family, and taking away work that somebody can pay $300 for is a huge injustice to that community. And so figuring out where we could provide ongoing helpful help was something that we had to do, and I've gotten better at it. That's why it's kind of an investment in continuing to go back, an investment in getting to know the communities, an investment in being able to add value and do some stuff at home was something that we did. We had a big conference afterwards. We won a university-wide award, and there's a version of that you can see in the poster area. And then my students actually had to write papers. 3 of them wrote one paper together that won UPR's Best Paper Award for the year, tapping into the strength of Puerto Rico community to reclaim control over political, social, and economic future. So I think that one of the things that I did was they had to study before they went there. They had to do work that was helpful. I did trauma-informed lawyering and taking care of yourself during traumatic lawyering classes before we went. We did as much cultural competence as I could do, and I figured out how to do better cultural competence, because every time I go, I get a little better, and then I figure out how many people I have to apologize to after I leave, even though I've been there 5 times to try and help. So every time, it's a learning experience for me to create better opportunities and better helpful help. But then they have to come back and do work, and sometimes it gets published or published in white papers or shared with people. And that's just been my goal, is to continue to do that. And so, we've been back again, that's just another one. But I want to be, we now have the Chief Justice, and the Chief Justice made me promise that I'd keep bringing students back. And when you promise the Chief Justice of Puerto Rico you're going to keep bringing students back, you have to figure out a way to do it, because she held my hands and made me promise in front of a whole bunch of people. She's not. So we're going to keep going back. We're going to figure it out. We're going to keep doing things like bringing Cecilio and Marla to our local communities to figure out how we can do diaspora work. And so that's kind of why I'm here. I literally woke up in the middle of the night, having only been to Puerto Rico once for a trip with my family, and somehow it's captured a piece of my heart. Somehow it's captured a piece of what I want to keep doing to create students who are going to be better at lawyering well, better at understanding what social justice really means, better at understanding how to do trauma-informed lawyering, and better at understanding where they belong in the world. So that's just my story.
Thank you so much for being here. It's a great way to start my presentation with all the amazing work that the University of Buffalo and the students at the law school have done in Puerto Rico. I'm the Executive Director of Fundación Fondo de Acceso a la Justicia, or Access to Justice Fund Foundation. And Access to Justice Fund Foundation is a nonprofit organization in Puerto Rico. Some of you may know some IOLTA programs in the United States, and in Puerto Rico the foundation is the IOLTA program. We basically fund other nonprofit organizations to provide legal aid, civil legal aid. So we are very much concerned of access to justice and the obstacles of access to justice in Puerto Rico. There's in criminal law, you have a constitutional right to have a lawyer that represents you, but in all civil matters, you don't. So, if you're going to lose your house, you don't have a constitutional right to have a lawyer when you're losing your house, and any other civil matter. So our foundation funds other organizations to help people have lawyers and help people educate on their rights, so they're empowered and they know what's going on in any kind of legal situation. So we, on 2017, after the hurricane, the foundation created the Emergency Legal Aid Fund. And I'm very excited because our past director of the foundation is just right here. So, and she was part of it, I have to say, a part of the creating this Emergency Legal Aid Fund. And creating this fund was extremely crucial and became almost as important as basic needs such as water and food and electricity, because the most common legal issue that we saw on our projects and our legal brigades, like Kim showed us earlier in some pictures of the legal brigades, were denials from FEMA assistance in the individual household program. 1.3 million people in Puerto Rico applied for FEMA assistance, and initially more than 60% were denied. And that was terrible because the people thought that money, that even a small amount of money would be enough to repair their home and to have a little bit of what they used to have, although a lot of people lost everything. So it represented more than just a little bit of money from that assistance. It represented, having a roof, possibly having a roof again, and trying to go back to their lives. And like I was in another panel, I was listening to Christine. She's from Puerto Rico, and she was one of the panelists, and she was saying, what's the point of having a relationship with the United States if FEMA wasn't there when we most needed FEMA? And I listened to her, and that was the thought of a lot of people in Puerto Rico at the moment, because FEMA wasn't there. Not only on a public level, but on individual household program assistance, it wasn't either. So we had to really put a lot of effort and energy in funding 20 nonprofit organizations. We almost 100 lawyers, Puerto Rican lawyers and law school students were in legal brigades, helping people out, filing their application for FEMA, and especially filing their appeals and reconsiderations for FEMA. And it was very frustrating, I have to say, because FEMA was asking